Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome once again to Career Expert Roundtable. I am Bill, the company's expert, and with me, as always, is Abby from the YouTube channel Life Work Balance. And we are here to answer your questions, anything related to job search, resumes, interviews, networking, careers, that kind of stuff. I think careers is a better way of encompassing what we're talking about here, I think.
Yes.
Uh,
I
yeah, hello, Abby. How's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Uh, yeah, this is episode number 40 of
Wow.
Career Expert Roundtable. I think you've been with me for like something like 38 of the 40 or something like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but
It's
yeah, so if you are seeing this live on either my channel or Abby's channel, it's going out live in both places. And I think your Twitch account also.
yes, yes.
So
So we'll have hopefully some viewers from all over the world. Bill, you're in Canada and I'm in the United States. And then we have people who join in if they see our streams go live from wherever they might be watching from as well. So if you've got any questions, if you've got, things that have been happening to you with your job search that are maybe career related as well, throw them in the chat or the comments, and we will do our best to get those questions answered. Bill?
absolutely. Yeah, the hot topic I think for this kind of stuff that everybody wants to know about is how to answer job interview questions. That's kind of the popular thing.
Mhm.
Things like tell me about yourself. Why do you want to work here? Why should we hire you?
Mhm.
Salary questions, always a big area of concern among a lot of people. What are your salary expectations? And then those pointed questions like what is your current salary? Things like that. Um, that kind of stuff. And then resume stuff, how to write a resume or create a resume that's going to result in, if you use it to apply to jobs, it's going to result in callbacks. So you do interviews and stuff like that. So yeah, Amazed is here. Amazed says, greetings, panel. Glad to be back. Well, it's glad
Yes,
to have
hello,
you.
amazed. It's always nice to see, it's like we start to recognize the people who show up to streams relatively frequently, and amazed is one of
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a few regulars
them.
that I have on my channel, and people that come back and stuff. That's really good because you can build on, if you have questions, and you get an answer for it, you can build on that. So that's the idea.
Yeah.
Um, Also, we do talk about some networking type stuff
Mhm.
and almost like meta kind of stuff where, for job interviews, people are wondering about, what's the perspective from the other side of the table? What, what's the motivation for recruiters to ask certain questions or to look for certain things? How do they make decisions? That's, I think, an area where you can certainly bring something to that discussion, Abby. You're a former
Yeah.
recruiter.
Well, and I think that this is what's great about you and me, Bill, is that I have these like rose-colored glasses as a recruiter and like interviewer, where I have a perfect idea of how I want things to go. And when I'm involved, they usually go that way. And then you're kind of the reality check of, well, that's not how it always goes. We have, kind of the darker side of the job search and interview process, which is unfortunately the reality of the situation for a lot of people. So even though I might be saying, like, email the recruiters and they'll get back to you 80% or 90% or even more of the time, people are not going to get back to you. So that's one of the
Yeah.
great things about this stream in particular is Bill and I align on a lot of things. And at the same time, we also have differing perspectives that can really help you be as prepared as possible as you go through the job search and kind of career development process.
Absolutely. I do give recruiters a hard time. I mean, there are some amazing heart recruiters out there that are extremely effective and very, very good at what they do. And I've had the pleasure of working with some of them. And so, I mean, that's definitely a thing. And I do acknowledge that. Unfortunately, there are a lot of that I'm sure you are aware of, we were just talking about, that really don't do a great job. They don't they take every shortcut, even when it sacrifices professionalism, it sacrifices protocol, it sacrifices manners,
Yeah.
you know, and things like this. And I see, and as I'm sure you do, a lot of people out there that, they've had the misfortune of encountering these people, and it's left them confused or hurt or, a bit depressed about the whole, like, or pessimistic about the whole job search, endeavor. So, there's a lot of there's an element of that, and it's interesting also because I think your background is into like psychology and stuff like this, and you know, handling rejection and getting depressed over the whole job search thing, and then feeling like confusion and that kind of helplessness feeling that I think a lot of people feel. That's a major part of this. I think it's something that should be discussed more. I think a lot of people could use help with that.
Yeah, it's almost like building resilience, right? With just your overall experience of not only your career when you're working in those sorts of environments, but then also the job search process. And it feels personal when you get rejected. And it feels personal when you don't get a response or you're ignored or you're ghosted. And most of the times it's not. It's unfortunate because I think, as many things in the current day and age, recruiting and the job search and interview process has become very transactional and kind of like pumping people through the system. And
Yeah,
so recruiters who probably used to be very hands-on, very personalized, almost like a concierge type process for everyone, both the employer who's hiring and the people who are working with recruiters directly, have moved into this more like really business like focused process where it's all about quantity and timelines, things like that, which is unfortunate because it removes the human element from the process,
absolutely.
which makes
Yeah.
it still less personable and ultimately less enjoyable for every party involved.
Yeah, I agree. I'd love to get into that because there's a lot of reasons that they're pushing a lot of recruiters in that direction. Like there's a lot of pressure to do things, and that's an interesting topic. We have some people in the chat. I think we should just go to those.
Yeah, let's do it.
So here's one. Amelia Carter says, "I previously worked for a large hospital that when I left, I had a pay disagreement with HR, and they did not like it. I am not rehirable with them anymore. Any pointers on how to get back in?" I think
Mm.
you'd be able to speak more to this. Like, usually when it goes south with like one organization, you then move on to others. But in
Yeah.
this case, you might have to get back. So
Yeah, this one is tough. I think that time is probably the thing that needs to occur, and then also networking. So, if you had a pay disagreement with HR of this large hospital organization, the first thing that I would do is kind of what you were saying, Bill, which is see what other organizations are out there that align with your skills, with the industry, whatever it might be, and
mm,
try that first. If this large hospital and this organization is the only option, then it's time to probably start building back the positive rapport and relationship with the decision makers. So let's just say, you're working for a large hospital. Let's just say you're working as a nurse. If you're working as a nurse, then HR isn't necessarily the people who are going to be making all of the hiring decisions. They might be a part of the process, but you may want to go in and start building some relationships with the people who are more of like the leadership of the nursing staff within that organization, who may not know your history and kind of the baggage associated with that past experience, and kind of get them on your side so that they can go to bat for you. And really, if a problem's come up with the kind of back end paperwork process of rehiring you, they can really advocate for your rehire. Um, and so,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And okay, so the person said in the chat a little bit further down that they're an RN and that it's been 3 years and that that this organization has bought out most of the town that they're in, or the area that they're in.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, and that happens with these large hospital organizations. They kind of come in and monopolize the space. So really, that's what I would do is I would start, identifying people within the organization who may be able to pull some strings and go to bat for you when it comes to rehiring you, especially because it's not a skill issue. If you are a great RN registered nurse and you have great, patient care, bedside manner, you have no, history of mistakes or things like that on your record, or very little things that have happened. There's not a lot of documentation of like performance things that are like performance problems. Then the salary thing should be something that you can overcome relatively easy. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're right. I mean, that's kind of the approach I would take anyway. Uh, now for Amelia Carter, if you know if there's a specific person in the HR department, maybe someone you were dealing with that was your contact,
Yeah.
where there was this dispute over pay or something. So, who specifically to talk to within the HR department that you have the history with or may have been edited your file or like any of that stuff. Um, I would definitely go to that person and just say, like, in some way, shape, or form, listen, I'm sorry we had perhaps some disagreement in the past, but
Yeah.
just so you know, I'm open to discussing salary. This kind of thing. There's no, I don't have an issue on my end, basically.
Right.
And then, but I agree with what you're saying, which would be the primary contact, which was if there's like a hiring manager, the person that makes the actual decision on who they hire for nursing staff or something, it would be like a head nurse or someone like that. Um, whoever nurse is reporting to, I have no idea what the organizational structure is, but whoever that person is, you would definitely want to talk to them, right? Preferably in person if that's possible. It may not be possible, but if you go down to the like the workplace, like the hospital or whatever it is, and then if they're around, you could like ask to see them or something.
Yeah.
Um,
And I would say
failing
in
that,
person for sure is feasible because
yeah,
nursing is mostly in person. Not,
yes.
there's telehealth and things like that, but working in a hospital, you'd definitely be in person, and so would your boss.
Yeah, exactly. And these are pretty important discussions. So you would want to have those in person if it's at all possible. So yeah, exactly. So I would do that. I would target those two people, like the
Mhm.
hiring manager, and then if there is a specific person in the HR department that you were dealing with that has a history with you about this pay dispute. So, and just sort of like offer an olive leaf, like peace branch, and say like, look, I'm open. I would like to come back, and if you have an opening, I have a lot of skills I can help you with, and I just don't want this to be the reason why, we go our separate ways because I think it's not really a valid reason. So, like that kind of thing. That's the approach I would recommend overall.
I agree.
Um, okay, so we've got Gopal Sharma says hi. Hi. Uh, Gopal Sharma says how to build network. Well, there's many ways of doing it there, Gopal Sharma. There's uh, like what they talk about for a network is kind of just all the people
Mhm.
so how do you know more people? You just talk to people. um, Generally extroverted type people don't have too much of a problem with this. They enjoy meeting and interacting with a lot of people. So you know for introverts it might be more of a concerted effort. But one of the most basic ways to get a job with a network is really things like direct outreach, which it doesn't rely on you knowing a million people beforehand. It's about you reaching out to hiring managers and people at the employers that could hire you. That's the idea. So very, very general question. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things in there.
Well, and Bill and I go on tangents with networking almost
Mm,
every single live stream about how
absolutely.
important it is and how the different ways to do it and things like that. And that's such a general question. The thing that I would recommend doing is starting with who you know and what they do, where they've worked, and who they might know. Because many times building your network doesn't have to start from scratch. It's already the people around you that you're interacting with relatively frequently that you can start with.
Yeah, absolutely. Who if you know people that are connected to people that can hire you, that's great.
Mhm.
um, if you don't, then you might have to make some of those connections yourself by initiating contact with them. So learning how to like reach out, learning how to initiate contact with a very specific person is definitely a very important skill, so you can create the connections to the people that are relevant, right, that can help you.
Absolutely.
And the people that can help you are usually at least one level above you. Like that's the other thing. Like connecting with a bunch of people way down at the bottom. I mean, you never know that can have some advantages, but the people that will be able to do stuff for you, like hire you or whatever,
Yeah.
or recommend you and have it carry a lot of weight, they're generally like sort of above you. So being able to reach out to those people and be able to interact with them is a very useful thing to know.
Yeah, and you might start off with like the people that you know that you're friends with or that are family members of you, and just talk to them about what they do, how they got into it, and then see if they can connect you to their boss or their boss's boss to have deeper conversations about potentially bringing you onto the organization. And just a quick note on that, your conversation does not start off with, please help me get a job. You have
Mm.
to build that relationship and that rapport with someone. Doesn't mean you have to take a year to do that, but you don't start off asking for them to do something for you. There's a psychology kind of trick that I recommend in one of my videos about asking questions at the end of an interview, which is really to get the other person talking about themselves. And the more talking that the interviewer does, the better they feel about you and your interview. And the same thing goes with networking. If you can ask them questions, make them feel like you value what they think and what they have to say, what they've done, that gives you a lot of brownie points when it comes to building relationships with people. So start there. Want to get to know them, genuinely care about what they do, how they got there, getting to know them. And that will be the best place to start with that networking.
Now, one thing that I wanted to do here today, okay, and this is a great place to do it, is because this is such a huge topic, okay, like how to build a network. What I'd like to do is I'm going to connect us with, if I can remember how to do that, is to connect us to Chat GPT. Or no, we got Grok going up. Do you want to try this, Abby, from your side? Just ask like how to build a network, and then let's see what it says, and then we can
Yeah.
react to it.
Let me get that up. If you want to pull it up, I'm going to just do voice to text, and you all can see how this works. So Grok is the program or platform that I prefer when it comes to AI usage. The other really popular one is ChatGPT, which is through OpenAI. Grok is through the X platform. Both of these platforms, Grok and OpenAI or ChatGPT, do require you have an account, but they are free to use. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to turn on this voice to text, and let's cross my fingers and hope my settings still are set up really.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see if this works, and if that doesn't work, I think I can do it on mine.
Okay. Hi, Grok. Do you have any tips for me on how I can begin building my network for my job search?
Start with people you already know. Reach out to former colleagues, classmates, or professors on LinkedIn with a quick, friendly message. Mention your job search and ask for advice, not favors.
Is there any way to
Next,
turn off
attend
the
industry meetups or
voice
virtual
output
events.
for it?
Even one good chat can spark connections.
There we go. Was it kind
Okay,
of
there we
echoey?
go. Yeah, we could just react to the text. I think that's probably the way to do it.
Okay, there we go. I turned off my mic now, so it's not listening to what I have to say. But here we go. How do I begin building my network for my job search? Start with people you know, reach out to former colleagues, classmates, professors. You can do it through LinkedIn. Mention your job search, ask for advice, not favors, which is something that Bill and I just touched on. Start attending industry meetings, things like that. So AI is a great place to kind of give you some ideas and brainstorm with these sorts of questions that you might have.
Absolutely. And do you have some video? I assume you have some videos on your channel, maybe, Abby, about like how to build a network, stuff like that.
It's not
Any
as in depth
titles you
as
want
yours, yes, but I do know that you specifically for introverts, which I think is a lot of people who are on here watching videos trying to better themselves, how they can begin networking as well. So I would say the networking content, while I do have some like on how to use LinkedIn and how to reach out to people, the networking is probably more your bread and butter when it comes to the content already available on your channel.
Yeah, but the thing I want to stress to everybody and Gopal Sharma is that number one, we're showing you one resource. If you haven't already dived into some of these AI tools, ask it. Like we started with the very general question. You could then follow up and say, well, I don't want to have to do it in person. What can I do? Or, I'm in this region. What can I do here? Or I'm in this industry. What approach should I take? List me the different methods. Like you can dive deep and you could ask follow up questions and learn that way. What do I say? this kind of thing, right? So every aspect of it. Now, Abby's got some videos on that. I've got some videos on networking and all that kind of stuff. But between all of these resources, Gopal Sharma and everybody else, you should be able to build up some skills here, because 80% of the jobs out there you access via networking. They're not posted. That's the idea.
Yes. And now I just want to try one more thing on Grok with this specific
Sure.
topic, which is how specific you can get with AI platforms like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to search, say I'm looking for a job in human resources. Can you let me know what sorts of events are available, in the next 3 months that I could attend to start building my network? So I'm going to ask essentially that.
Okay.
Thank you, Grok. I am looking for a job in the HR field, and I was wondering if you could search the internet and let me know if there are any networking events that I can attend in person in the Denver, Colorado area in the next 3 months. Let's see what it generates for us.
Have you how accurate is that on Grok? I know ChatGPT, it's kind of hit and miss. It can tell you some stuff, but it's not pinpoint accurate. Have you had a chance to verify much of this kind of stuff for Grok?
Yes. Yep. And so it's even as specific. Well, it kind of starts to give us some text to look at. My husband was using Grok to identify a midpoint meeting location for him and his brother who live in different areas of Colorado. And Grok was able to do that as well. It suggested a specific location based off of the information that my husband was able to provide. So Grok is, can search the internet, can use websites and articles and things like that to inform its responses to you. Now, you don't want to just take that as, 100% accurate right away. You would want to double check some of these things. But I know as an HR professional in the Denver metro area, which is where I'm located, that there is this Mile High SHRM annual HR conference that's coming up in the next month. Then there's Disrupt HR Denver, which is one of the main HR, not conferences, but networking events that is in March as well. And so those are the main ones that it found that were HR focused and in person. And it gives some.
Okay, so it's pretty useful, pretty accurate for that. So, okay, good. That's good to know. Okay, so that was Gopal Sharma. Let's we got some other ones here. Tully Mars says, "Are job boards dead? LinkedIn is mostly job hunters or recruiters now, and tons of ghost jobs."
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that, Abby?
I like job boards for data gathering. I do not like job boards for actively applying. Job boards are kind of the easy, passive way for job searching. They are helpful to know what is out there, what types of jobs are out there, what types of organizations are out there. But I think that exclusively applying online through job boards is slowly becoming dead, so to speak. Like you mentioned, there are tons of ghost jobs, and even LinkedIn. I, as a recruiter, would have jobs that I posted on my organization's website get spammed onto LinkedIn kind of as a false job. And it was with the intention for people to apply on LinkedIn, for people to get people in other countries to then pull information from them. And it was just like a fake job posting. So you have to be really careful with that sort of thing. I always recommend using job boards just to get ideas of what's out there, and then going to organizations' websites specifically to see if those jobs actually exist. And then to also do a little bit of a deeper dive to see if you can identify an actual human being that you can reach out to contact, build a network with, or build a relationship with, to then start that application process that way. So I don't love job boards. I think that they are on their way out.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought that they'd be on their way out, but when you say that, it kind of I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing the long decline towards that. I don't think they'll completely disappear, but it's definitely on the decline. I mean, most jobs are not. You don't find them on job boards anyway, so that's the thing,
Most people don't want to network. Most people do want to apply more passively, and that actually is the harder way to apply, because suddenly with the remote world that started to appear after the pandemic, you suddenly got significantly more applicants to online jobs that were posted than you did before. So it just is starting to go away. If you're not one of the first people to apply on a job board, if the job is only posted on that job board, then good luck getting considered, because these
Yeah.
jobs are getting thousands of applicants, and a human recruiter can't filter through all of that. So they'll usually, if it's a person doing the initial review, pick the first, 10 to 15 people who applied. And if they find their person there, then they move on.
Yeah. It's not completely dead, but it's not the best place to look. Put it that way. There's a lot of other things out there. The short answer, if you're wondering what are those things, the short answer is networking. And within that, the most popular thing, as I understand it, is direct outreach.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing. The idea is like you can do this yourself. You can go on. You know what? Let's. Can I do this? I guess I have to share another tab. You know what? Let's try this just as an experiment here. So
Yeah.
so add to stage. Okay. So this is my thing. I'm going to try and do the voice thing. Okay. So in terms of getting a job, not on a job board, my understanding is that networking is the way to go. And the most popular thing within networking is direct outreach. Would you agree with that? Let's see how long it takes my slow computer to return a result here. Okay, so short answer, yes, with one important clarification. You're right, the networking is the dominant way that people get hired outside job boards. And you're also right that direct outreach has become the most visible and teachable tactic. That's because it's relatively straightforward. That's the thing. But here's the nuance. Networking is the category. Networking is the umbrella. Yeah, like within networking, there's like a ton of different types of activity. So that includes referrals, internal advocates, informational interviews, former coworkers, recruiters you may already know, executives who know who you are. So the idea is that the alternatives to things like direct outreach are things that either require you to know people like previously, like they know you, they know that you're good, they know you're highly skilled, etc., so they can recommend you, or it requires you to do a lot more work than direct outreach. So things like informational interviews, that's where you connect over kind of a similar channel, similar way, but then instead of like sending them a template thing saying, hello, I'm here, if you ever need someone like me, hire me. Instead of that, you then go and talk to them in person and have like a big long conversation. So these other things that it's listing, they're more work, they're more involved. Now, they can be more effective, but they're more involved. So for people starting off, the big thing I'd recommend is learn about this thing called direct outreach.
Yeah.
And that's something that is relatively straightforward, especially if you're already on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is a perfect tool to do direct outreach. I've heard a lot of people express their doubts about how good it is for like applying to jobs, like the question we just got here from Tully Mars, but it's an incredible tool for doing things like direct outreach. So,
yeah. And I actually had a previous client reach out to me saying that there was a option on LinkedIn, which is now to kind of express interest in jobs on LinkedIn for a specific organization. I have
that's not
not
that open to work
that.
thing. This is something else.
Yes, like with a specific organization, you can, I think, click a button and express interest in working with that organization. And if they have a job become available, the recruiters associated with that organization might be able to highlight your profile proactively. And so I think, all of the online job boards are doing what they can to not become obsolete and not become this place where people are deciding not to use them anymore. So they've got to come up with things like that, where they can have tools that make the recruiter's job easier and also make it easier for the candidates to not be as active in the process.
Yeah. And my gut feeling about a lot of that stuff, without really knowing all the nitty gritty details, is it's just kind of gimmicky, like the open to work thing and stuff like that. It's like, the jury is out on whether it's really useful or not, or it signals negative things as well as positive things. So anyway, we've got a few questions to go through, so maybe we should just Let's see here. I'm taking way too much time. Okay, Robin says, "Hi, I lost a job on last Friday. I'm sorry to hear that, Robin. How should I handle this? I have a lot of financial burden on me." Well, that sucks, Robin. Let's see if we can help you out here.
Yeah, and I think first and foremost, Bill and I are not, financial advice givers necessarily. Um, but my first recommendation is if you have a lot of financial burden on you, find something that can relieve some of that burden as quickly as possible so you have that stress off of you. And then you can become much more specific and picky about the job that you're going to get next. So if you are in a place where you have significant financial burden, you don't have the ability to be unemployed, then you should probably take the first thing available to you that can help you relieve that financial burden, even if it's not.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, when you say, how should I handle this?
Mhm.
That can get into a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can rapid fire this. So, number one, first of all, realize that on a personal level, number one, this happens. It sucks. It feels like, some kind of like gut punch, plus the added stress of all your responsibilities. If you're having a problem dealing with this, you're human, like it's a normal human reaction to be overwhelmed and to have all kinds of emotions. Listen, you're awesome, you're doing fine, and this requires real solutions. So let's get into that. Now, the first thing I would say is obviously, this is self-evident, try and find a job as quickly as possible. Okay. To do that, I would recommend you do multiple things. Don't just do one thing. Like, don't just look at job boards or whatever. Do multiple things in your job search. Look at the job boards. That's part of it. Okay. Should you spend all your time on the job boards? Absolutely not. Uh, take advantage of, if you have an existing network, people former coworkers at this job that you just left. Maybe there are some people there that you got along with that know about you. They know how capable you are. They might know of openings. They might be able to advise you or put in a good word for you places. Take advantage of all that. People from previous jobs, previous bosses, like all that stuff, like anybody that could possibly help you, reach out to them. Don't send like a template thing. It's worth the trouble to make it a little more individualized and a little more personal if you can. There is a process for this. It's a 3-step process. You don't just contact them out of the blue and say, I need a job. You kind of do a couple of things first, and on the third one is kind of when you ask for something. So do that. Learn all you can about like networking and stuff like that. Definitely do direct outreach. Okay.
Yep.
And before I hand this over to Abby, I just want to say, for the financial thing, obviously, if there's a way to lighten that burden by like, sort of, offloading things or canceling things or minimizing things, economizing, do it now. Do it proactively rather than hoping for the best and then waiting until things become really critical to like take action. Okay? That's what
Yep.
I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't, subscriptions, for example, if I really want my Netflix subscription, but that's $50 a month, you could probably use that $50 elsewhere in a more effective way in this time of your life. So cut some of the things that you don't need, find a job as quickly as possible that helps you pay those bills and make ends meet, even if it isn't the job that you want or a job that you love. Know that this is temporary and that you will eventually get to a place where you are able to make the money that is important for you to survive, as well as also really enjoy the work that you're doing. When it comes to actually searching for the job that you want to make sure you update your resume, that you start preparing for the interview and the application process. You don't want to focus on quantity over quality, though quantity is important, especially knowing that the job search process can take a while. You don't want to only apply to 3 jobs because the chances of you getting one of those 3 jobs is relatively slim. So you do need to apply to a higher quantity of jobs, but not so many that you aren't able to be really intentional about how you are updating or tailoring your resume. The time you're spending writing a cover letter and editing that, the time that you're spending preparing for your interviews. So use ChatGPT or Grok to help you prepare for that interview process. Now, I don't have a job posting ready to show you what that might look like, but you can use these platforms to help you identify your blind spots based off of your experience. It can analyze your resume compared to the job posting. You can have it identify the core competencies of the job posting that can really help you focus stories to build in the actual interview process. You can have it generate interview questions for you to practice. And then you can even have it act as an interviewer using that voice to text option. So there's a lot of things that you want to focus on when it comes to the pre-hire process. But ultimately, if you are in this place, I mean, the fact that you mentioned that you have a lot of financial burden on you, that tells me that you're already feeling a little stressed about this. And so think about where you might be able to relieve some of that burden, whether it's
Yeah, and look at part-time stuff too. Like,
yeah,
don't just shy away from part-time stuff because you need like a
yeah,
full-time job. The part-time stuff can be a way into the full-time job. You
absolutely.
know, you never know. So don't
Mhm.
close off some of these options like just by judging it as inapplicable when it could be your lifeline.
Yep. And there may be temp agencies that you can work with. If you're in the United States, there are workforce centers, which are located in every state, usually associated with the county that you might live in. So there's a lot of options out there. Um, and I think one of the things Bill said is that you're not alone. Lots of people experience this sort of thing, and it sucks. And it could have been completely unexpected. You might feel blindsided and have been freaking out all weekend over this. Take a deep breath and know that you can put a process and a strategy in place to overcome this, and that you will be able to find a job and get things back up and running for you. It might not happen today and it might not happen tomorrow, but if you can really set that strategy, then it will probably happen sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. We wish you the best of luck there, Robin.
Yeah.
Okay, Amelia Carter. Did we do this one or this is something new? I'm looking for
This
remote.
is, I think, in addition,
Okay.
we haven't talked about this yet.
Okay, I'm looking for remote instead now. Any pointers on that? I'm very good at what I do. Lots of great reviews.
Mhm.
Um, I think you're more versed on remote jobs than I am, Abby, because that's all happened since the pandemic. A lot of it.
Yeah, and while I'm not an expert in the healthcare industry, especially when it comes to like telehealth and things like that, if you're more interested in remote work now, then that actually opens up a lot of opportunities for you rather than being limited by the single large hospital organization that's buying up all the hospitals in your area. So you may be able to work remotely for other organizations in your state and maybe even out of your state or your area. And that's one thing that you'll want to look into is your license as an RN. How does that apply to some of those other more like compliance and legal based things? But there's really no problem with starting the remote application process. It probably will take a little bit longer to get hired if it's a pretty competitive field, which I think telehealth and remote healthcare is starting to get pretty competitive. And so you'll want to make sure that you can continue to network and you can identify which organizations you want to work with, find those recruiters, find those decision makers, find people who are doing what you want to do and see if they can connect you to their boss or their HR contact and go from there. But applying to jobs online for remote work is very competitive. So unless you're able to find an in to connect with someone who can kind of circumvent the system for you, it could be a long process.
Okay, and then we have Tully again here. I try to do everything the experts say, the quote unquote experts. I will apply if the recruiter is in linked or LinkedIn. I guess I will send a polite DM to them. 25 years in my field, it's rough out there. Okay, well, best of luck with that. Yeah, learn some of these processes about like things like direct outreach, like I was saying earlier. They really are to your advantage. You know, just go on ChatGPT, go on Grok, go on whatever AI chatbot of your choosing, and ask like not just one question, ask a series of questions. Like, okay, you say this, how do I do that? What's going on here? Stuff like that, and
And you
just
can start
learn.
off really broad and vague, and then you start to funnel it down to very specific, um,
Yeah.
niche oriented questions that will help you feel a little bit more prepared with your strategy as you move forward.
If you've never done this kind of thing before, it can be extremely useful. These tools can help you. Now, for people who have done it before and you're wanting to kind of fine tune what you're doing, uh, then I think that you reach a limit to what, like, the AI chatbots can do.
Yeah.
I think they're hit and miss. They're really good in some areas and not great in others. They're actually pretty good in the job search stuff, but up to a point. And Abby's got videos. I've got videos. The stuff, like, I can only speak for myself. The stuff that I talk about, it's a little more advanced. It's not really the stuff that the basics that ChatGPT and stuff can help you with.
And I think that this is also what's tough about the job search and like interview process in general, is that it's also so subjective based off of the people that you are interacting with. So for example, I have lots of videos on tips and tricks on the interview preparation process and how to answer interview questions and things like that. But that is, a very general recommendation. You might be interviewing with someone who wants something super specific that I could never predict. And so that's the other thing is to understand is that usually it's not personal. Usually it's not associated with, someone, like, you're not going to be able to watch all of my videos and all of Bill's videos and get in a position the next time you apply or the next time you interview. It's kind of learning the human aspect of it, because you have to kind of switch the way that you show up to address the other person who's a part of this process. And there's no way you can predict that. So you have to do a lot of guesswork. And that just is why this whole process is so frustrating.
Absolutely. And this is for Tully Mars. And I see there's another question here. Somebody saying how to get hired fast in Q8 in 2026. That could be like the title of a movie. How to get hired fast in Q8 in 2026. So for these people and other people, I want to do something that, like, I've done before, but I don't think I've ever done here. I want to see if I can share this. Okay, so here's kind of a basic thing you can do. I don't want to use Q8 as an example. I want to use someplace that at least uses a lettering system that I can read. So I don't know. What's a random city in the U.S., Abby, that we could use as an example?
We'll do Dallas, Texas. D-A-L-S.
Dallas.
Yep,
The name's Dallas. Okay, so Dallas, I'm going to go to maps. Okay, so if this thing will work, then I should be looking at a big map of Dallas. Okay, hopefully you can see this. It's not too small. So let's pretend you lived in Dallas or anywhere. You could do this yourself. Let's pretend you lived in Northwest Dallas. That's the place to be, apparently. That's where the magic happens. So this is where you live. Let's say we're looking at where you live. Now, what you can do, somebody mentioned being an RN, like a nurse. Did anybody else mention any, like, specific professions so far? All I remember is the nurse thing.
No, I don't think so. But,
okay, so
like software
nurse.
engineer.
So, for example, if I type in nurse, okay, on the map, I don't know if you can see this, stuff pops up. You could, like, mouse over these things. Let's pretend I'm a nurse looking for a job and I'm looking for potential employers around me. So Council on Physician and Nurse Supply. There you go. Here's another one. What's this? Organization of Wound Care Nurses. Maybe they hire some nurses there. They could be looking. What's this? Aviana Healthcare. Aviana Healthcare. I don't know what this is, but maybe they're hiring there. Now, each of these, you have their website, right? So they're physically near you. If you're looking at, like, within, say, commuting distance or something, they're physically near you. Here's their website. Here's their phone number. So if you wanted to, like, the most obvious thing, you could go to their website and look for, if they have any postings. I would not necessarily recommend that, but that's something you could do. Now, if we zoom in, okay, and we say search this area, there's this little button up here. Bam, you get more things. I don't know what this is. The Oaks at Flower Mound Assisted Living Facility, right? So you can see how many targets, like, this is within a city, right? Now, we just typed in nurse. There's other things you could type in too. You could look for hospital, okay? Like, obviously that would be something that could hire nurses, right? So that's going to produce its own set of targets on here. What else could hire nursing? Doctor's office.
Yeah.
I don't know. You could start going. You could probably think of about 20 different search terms that might describe employers of nurses in your area
And
if
if
you're a
you
nurse.
can't remember what those employers could be, you can use ChatGPT or Grok and say, I'm a nurse.
Yeah, there you go.
Let me come up with 20 different types of organizations or employers that I could work for. And you could
Yeah.
find travel
So
nursing, urgent
so this is
care.
the first half. This is the first half of a very simple kind of thing. Now that you have like a list of all these different potential employers, right, in your area that have potential to hire someone like you. Okay, so here's like the latest Bridalwood Family Healthcare. So what you can now do is you can go to LinkedIn, you can do a people search, and you can set it to your geographic region. So like, Dallas or Northwest Dallas, the upper west side. I have no idea. And do a people search. You type in Bridalwood Family Healthcare, right? And the people it's going to find is going to look inside this organization. It's going to find, the people within it. So maybe here's the owner, here's the general manager, here's the head nurse or something like that, and so on. And those are people that you can then like do direct outreach with and like reach out to them, send them a template message, say, hello, I'm here. I'm a fully qualified registered nurse. I've got 20 years experience. I specialize in this area. If ever you're looking for, someone like that to join your team, please keep me in mind. I live nearby. I think you guys do great work. Have a great day. Like just that. And they don't need a response. You don't need to have an exchange with them. Most of the time, these people are not hiring. Like 90% of the time, they won't be hiring for a nurse right now. But 10% or 5% or even 1%, right now, they're looking for a nurse, and you just fell right in their lap. That's the idea. So they might say, hey, let's maybe get together. They might have some follow-up questions for you and things like this. And that's how you can get in. So that's direct outreach. So for the people that have never done this kind of thing before, this is what you can do. You using Google Maps and LinkedIn. You might need the paid version of LinkedIn if they're always flogging like the free month. So sign up for the free month and then cancel before the end of the month, and then you don't have to pay anything. So these are some of the things you can do right now to do things like direct outreach. And as you can see, you've got hundreds of targets, and within each target, you might have multiple individuals. So that's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah. Yep. And
That was
you could spend, yeah, well, and it's all based off of how much time you want to spend on this too. You can start small and say, I'm going to find 5 organizations near me and I'm going to start there. Or you could really zoom out that map, so to speak, and take the bigger picture and say, I'm going to get as many organizations as possible that I can find as a list and then work my way through there tomorrow once I've made this list all day. And so it all is really dependent on what works best for you. And going back to that one person who just lost their job on Friday and they're, wondering what they can do if they need to find a part-time job, then you can also simultaneously hold that job while doing this job search and networking process. They're not mutually exclusive. You can do
absolutely
them simultaneously.
So that's 2 things that you can do absolutely simultaneously: cruise the job boards, but also be doing this. I mean, that will fill your time with productive activity. Like it's turning over every stone to try and find something.
Yeah. And if you're in the United States and you are unemployed, then a lot of times they require you track your job search like progress and the things that you've done that go towards your job search. If you are not if you're not officially unemployed or you're not within the United States, it's still really helpful to track those sorts of details to just show yourself how much work you've put into this process to kind of feel like you're doing something. You're being productive, you're being proactive. Like, wow, look, I have contacted 15 different organizations and have gotten responses from 7 of them. Being able to track and quantify your experience can be helpful as well with building your confidence with the process.
Absolutely. And I want to remind everyone that, if you need assistance for this, Abby is a fully qualified career coach. So if you're looking for someone to work with you, either to build resumes and get responses, or to work with you and so that you can do kick-ass interviews, and do very, very good interview technique, come across really well, make a good impression, all that kind of stuff. Check out her YouTube channel, look at her services. She provides all that. I think that's your main bread and butter, isn't it? So
Yep.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you want to say more on that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So my primary, like the thing that is most popular among my clients is my interview strategy sessions, which is where I help people prepare for an upcoming interview, whether it's just in general, they feel like their interview technique is not as strong as it could be, or they have a specific interview tomorrow that they want to practice for. So that could be just general strategy, what sorts of questions could come up, how to answer those, or it could even be a mock interview. And then the other types of sessions that I do are more with the job search strategy overall. So helping people with their resumes, their cover letters, putting together their applications, and then also general career coaching and job searching techniques. So where you can look, what sorts of, I guess, resources are out there to help people maybe identify industries or types of jobs that they didn't think of before that they might be good fits for. And so it's the gamut. The things that I do most often is the interview preparation, though.
Absolutely. So check that out. We have Amelia Carter says, I'm an integrative health practitioner too. I could start my own business, but I have imposter syndrome. How to overcome that? I do a live stream once a week. I talk about entrepreneurship and people who want to do side hustles. They want to start their own business. So check that out. To give you some kind of answer here is, first of all, everybody gets imposter syndrome. That's just a symptom of doing something new, not just how it goes. But what I would recommend is learn at least the basics of business. And then, you don't go ahead and make all kinds of obvious rookie mistakes that could be damaging. Learn the basics so you know what you're doing. And then it's a matter of getting information on your specific industry and your specific customers, whoever would be interested in what you have to offer. That's all I can say here. We're primarily talking about careers and job search. So check out my weekly live stream where I talk about that stuff. I also have some videos on my channel talking about that. But always have a fallback option. Don't take huge financial risks to do this. That's why side hustles are so good. You have a day job, you got stability, and then you push for something more, after hours or on the weekend.
And just complete transparency, that's actually how I started my business. I, graduated with my master's degree in clinical mental health counseling, but decided I didn't actually want to do the counseling therapy side of things. So I had my, day job in HR and administration. And then on the evenings and weekends, I started building this career coaching business and eventually got to a place where I was able to step away from the HR administration side of things and move to fully focus on my own business.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's something that in this day and age, it's never been easier to do. So, there's definitely some possibilities there. Gopal Sharma says it's very hard for introverts to get the job. Absolutely. Yeah. Speaking as an introvert, a lifelong introvert, extroverts have a lot of advantages. I mean, there's pros and cons to both type of personalities, but definitely when you're trying to cast a wide net, obviously extroverts have the advantage. They enjoy talking to people. They enjoy reaching out. They enjoy surrounding themselves with 50 people they don't know and getting to know them. That's what they do for fun, right? So that helps. I have courses on my channel. If you're wanting to take a course, I don't do personal coaching, but I have 3 courses, the most important of which is something called my Get Hired course. Check it out. There's a link in the description below that can really help. And I do a lot of videos and stuff that's specifically targeted to introverts. So you're right. But you know what? Introverts can be just as effective as extroverts. Just they don't like the process as much, but they can be every bit as effective at public speaking and conversations and reaching out to people. You would be surprised. Once you learn a few simple rules of how these things work and then you practice, you can really open a lot of doors for yourself.
Yeah. And I wouldn't limit yourself with thinking, oh, I'm an introvert. I can't do this. I can't get the job. They're not going to like me. It's that inner voice that actually can be the biggest downfall. And instead, introverts typically need a little bit, they need 2 things. One, they need to identify what helps them recharge their batteries and rejuvenate their energy reserves. So I'm also an introvert. A lot of people don't believe that. Bill, I'm not sure if you feel the same way, where people might not believe you're an introvert because we do this sort of
Because we
thing.
actually talk. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
But I know that, there are things that I need to do when I'm not on camera, for example, that will help me recharge my batteries that I need as an introvert. I need some time alone. I need some quiet. I need to, focus on certain things in order to feel recharged. And really, introversion versus extroversion is how you regain that energy. Introverts usually need time alone, whereas extroverts need time with others to recharge their batteries. So just
absolutely.
because you need to recharge your batteries alone doesn't mean that you don't make a good interviewer or you don't make a good employee or anything like that. So figure out what it is that you need to recharge your batteries so that when you're engaging in this social aspect of interviewing, where you feel like you have to act or put on a facade or be someone that you're not, or really push your comfort zone, that you can step back and recharge those batteries so that you feel ready to do it again tomorrow, or in 2 hours.
Absolutely. Just
Yeah.
because you hate every person you see around you doesn't mean that you can't succeed in networking. No, it's
Mhm.
true. What myself and Abby are saying, just to restate it for a third time, is that, extroverts and introverts can both be really great at social interaction. They
Mhm.
both can be equally good. The
Mhm.
difference is that extroverts enjoy doing it,
Mhm.
whereas introverts, they don't enjoy doing it. They do it as a chore, as a task. It's not what they do for fun, but they can be quite effective at it. So that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Well, and that's the
That's what you need
second
to
thing
understand.
that I think really comes into how you can become better at interviewing and, even being an employee is practice. So introverts might just need a little bit more practice and preparation to feel comfortable and confident moving into that interaction or that situation, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. So identify what it is that helps you recharge your batteries, and then also practice to feel comfortable moving into that uncomfortable situation.
I remember, like, I can't remember how old I was, if I was a teenager or I was like in my early 20s,
Mhm.
where I learned the thing, like, at least in Western culture, like where we are, you look people in the eyes when you talk to them. Because before I like learned that, like as a concept, my natural tendency was just to like look down. When somebody's talking to me, you don't hold like the eye contact. You just kind of look away or whatever. And there's all kinds of body language you're giving off. You're inadvertently signaling, oh, I'm not interested. I'm kind of weak, and I like I'm dumb or something, or I'm not on the level with you, like all this stuff, all these signals you're giving off that you don't realize. And then one day I can't remember how I got this, but the point is, like, I learned this idea and then I started practicing it. So like everybody I talked to, all of a sudden it was like a shift. You just look them right in the eyes and you hold their gaze. You don't have to stare them down, but you don't avert your eyes. So you learn an idea and then you practice it. So that's how, what you can do if you're an introvert, if you have some issues with like having a conversation with people or feeling comfortable, like in job interviews, you're having to meet people, and you have to look them in the eye, and you have to answer questions, and you have to look like you're not completely hating being there. So you learn an idea and then you start practicing it, and you could practice it with friends and family, wherever, and then with a career coach, and then in job interviews, and then you do better. People get a better impression of you. So that's the name of the game. Learn the idea. You could use
Yep.
ChatGPT to figure out what the ideas are. Ask it, like, I have problems with social interaction. I have social anxiety. My body language is off. I fear that I'm not doing a very good job. What should I do? And it might tell you one thing: do this. Go out and practice. And that's the
Yeah,
process you use to like kick ass at this and do good job interviews.
absolutely.
Okay, now that I've talked everyone to death, let's see. Trekker says, I just want to thank you because your channel, I was able to land a job now in my third week. That's great to hear, Trekker. I'm not sure who you're talking to, but Abby and
Congratulations.
I have both helped a lot of people. So yeah, congratulations. And thank you for being so gracious to come back and tell us this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Having those
makes
types of success stories just kind of go to show that if you can apply some of these techniques in a way that works for you, it likely will pay off.
absolutely. Tully Mars, thanks for answering. I'm continuing to network. Good. Yeah, don't ever stop. Even when you have a job, kind of keep this stuff going on in the background. It can really open doors for you. What's this? Not Shing. They always post who got the job. Okay. That's interesting. I don't think that's a common practice.
Yeah, I wonder if that is the company or the organization.
Is that like a job board, like a job forum, maybe that posts it?
Yeah, for
And the
each
winner
open job
is
afterwards, the person who got the offer. Interesting.
yeah, the winner is this person. Here's their name. Here's their address. Here's where you can find them at what time of day, so you can go beat them up, that kind of thing.
How dare you get the job except for over me?
Yeah, no consequences there, I imagine.
Uh-huh.
For each open job they fill afterwards, the person who got the offer. Wow, that's interesting. I've never heard of that Shing, but maybe think twice about that if that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Sense 36 says your experiences and knowledge is invaluable. Thank you for sharing. Absolutely welcome. Yeah, and with Abby and I, you're getting two different perspectives on these things. You know, we're coming at this from two different like directions. So that's what I think the value is. You never score if you never take a shot. Absolutely. And there's a whole bunch of those, like, you know, HR little sayings, right? You know, fish where the fish are, and, you know, stuff like that.
Motivational posters and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, of varying degrees of helpfulness, I think, too.
Yes. Well, some of my favorite, just years ago, this is a side note that doesn't matter all that much, but there was demotivational posters, which I found quite funny. You know, it's like the early bird gets the worm, but what about the early
Get
worm?
confidence, stupid. Sorry, I totally talked over your thing.
No, it's okay.
Say that again. Say that again.
The early bird gets the worm, but what about the early worm? So things like that.
They don't get the bird. That's a brain tease.
You don't want to be the early worm. You want to be the early bird.
I guess you have to be earlier than the bird, and then you win. That kind of thing. Let's see. I love how detailed you are in helping others improve their lives. Well, that's the magic of talking to a couple of introverts here. So, you know, we have to go into painstaking amounts of detail. That's why the chat is backed up so much. So my apologies for that, for my part in that. Read the show says, good afternoon. So like, good afternoon. I watch the live streams every chance and apply the lessons here to my job search. I was able to get a 2-year temporary contract job as a public service aide. We need like some kind of sound effect, like a crowd effect of people cheering, you know. Yeah, congratulations. That's great news. Read the show. And I remember you from a couple of previous sessions there. So that's really good. And once again, to you too.
Months ago, you know, I remember,
you
know, people will change their handles a couple of times, but I recognize your picture from our previous streams. So the next comment from Read the Show says, I start in mid-February and I thank you both for the lessons and strategies. Congratulations. That is awesome. And a 2-year temporary contract job. My experience with contract work is that usually leads to more jobs after that.
Yes.
And well, you know, at least here in the United States, sometimes temporary contract jobs are a little bit different in like what sorts of benefits are offered with the organization. But many times it's kind of like a trial period where they can get to know you and then really love you. And then when there's a permanent position available, you're one of the first people that they want to put into that. So fingers crossed that it continues to pan out for you.
Absolutely. And I use that in my company too. It was for exactly what Abby just said. It's like a formal kind of trial period, you know, like that's the purpose of it. And if it doesn't work out or it's not going optimally, it's like a way, you know, you don't have to fire anybody. It just sort of ends. But a lot of time it is a permanent job in disguise, you know, like that's the thing. So don't shy away from that stuff necessarily. Okay. Sensory imposter syndrome. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. I think
it
briefly.
Like there's kind of stream of consciousness, like chat contributions here.
Yeah. Because as we were saying it, maybe they're like mock interviews. Yeah, definitely do mock interviews.
Yeah. Towards the bottom of this kind of comment string, Sens 36 says, I always thought that joining an improv comedy group could help you speak on the spot. Yes, actually, and kind of to go on a tangent with this, at least here in the United States, we have Toastmasters, and I think Toastmasters is an international organization. So if you don't,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, if you don't feel comfortable speaking in public or speaking on the spot, or you feel like your brain blacks out when you're asked a question, try an organization like Toastmasters where you can push yourself outside of your comfort zone in a safe space where you're not going to be judged, you're not going to be ridiculed, you're not going to be, you know, fired or discontinued from the job search or anything like that. Really find organizations that help support you in growing and developing in the areas that are not necessarily your comfort zones so that you can become more comfortable and confident. And then it doesn't hinder you in whatever process it is that you might be engaging in next, whether it's interviews, needing to sit on a board for a promotion, essentially marketing and selling yourself so that you can grow and develop and improve from a career perspective.
Yeah, I joined Toastmasters like way back in the day. I was like for like a year or something, and it's funny because I vaguely remember the experience, but what sticks in my mind is somebody where I worked came up to me at the time that I barely knew and said, "I hear you're one of those effing Toastmasters," and I said, all I remember is saying like, yeah, and you better watch your effing language or something. So that's what I remember. Like, it's so stupid how your mind works. That's what I remember. But yeah, for like about a year,
Yeah.
um, they have clubs all over the place. Like, it's really down to whether you like the individual particular group. Sometimes you go into a club and they're like the friendliest people you've ever met. So if you're trying to learn a bit about public speaking and getting some conversational skills, they can be great, but it really depends on the individual club. So that's what I'd
Yeah.
say
And
about.
again, like Bill demonstrated with using Google Maps to find nursing organizations or whatever organization is that you want to apply for, you can do the same thing with Toastmasters. Just search Toastmasters. And I know in my area, there's like 5 different chapters. And I can decide which one is closest and I can go try that out. Or I can, maybe one's closer to my in person job location. And maybe there's one that's with my organization because, they can even be within your organization. Toastmasters for, this hospital. So
Yeah,
there's,
it's to work on public speaking. It's for people who want to work on public speaking. It's a way to get experience, to learn the theory behind it, and then get experience in kind of a controlled environment. Only a few people, working on this together, and this kind of stuff. So check it out if that's kind of what's one of your goals. Um, I just wanted to look at these things. It must be comfortable in your skin. Yeah. LOL. Compliment each other. Truth is what you were saying. Um, I always, yeah, improv comedy could help. Yeah, I guess. I don't know much about that myself, but Xing may mean to say crossing. Okay.
like a railroad crossing here in the United States, they'll do like an X for
Mm.
crossing.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm Googling Toastmasters right now. Okay, here we go. Fantasia says, do cover letters matter? Because 2 of my friends have quickly pivoted and they didn't write cover letters. Meanwhile, I'm still looking and writing them.
Yes. So I'll take this one because I love cover letters.
Hmm.
But there is a spectrum of people on like the cover letter spectrum. People who hate them and will never look at them as recruiters or hiring managers. And then people like me on the other end of the spectrum who love them and will look at them. Now, if a cover letter is mentioned as a required application material, obviously do it. If it doesn't mention a cover letter, you're not required to post a cover letter. However, if there's a chance that the recruiter is like me or the hiring manager is like me and is interested in a cover letter, and I used it not only to get to know the applicant a little bit better before actually talking to them, but to get an idea of how much effort they put into the application process, because that was an indicator to me of how much they really cared about the job that they were applying to. So I think cover letters help set you apart. And at the same time, they can become a time suck. So it really is up to you to use your resources in the most effective way. So I recommend that you don't rewrite a cover letter every single time. You'll have a general template that you tweak slightly to be very specific to the job that you're applying to. but that doesn't mean that you start from scratch and have to write a brand new one every single time. So use ChatGPT, use Grok, and ask it to help you modify a cover letter to fit a really, the new job posting that you might want to apply to. That will help.
Would you do like, how you were talking about the resume stuff, where you have a master version of your resume and then you get the AI to tweak your master version to a custom version. Would you do that with a cover letter? Like, would you have like a master cover letter and then tweak that? Is that kind of the approach there?
Essentially, I don't actually have a master version of my cover letter.
Hmm.
What I do have is kind of industry specific versions of cover letters. So, for
Okay.
example, I have a cover letter for training and development. I have a cover letter that is more for like HR recruiting. I have a cover letter that's more research and development side of things. So, those cover letters that are more industry specific are kind of like the master version. And then I
Hmm.
might paste that into ChatGPT or Grok plus the job posting and ask it to tweak it for the specific job. And I would say they probably all three of those examples came from essentially a master cover letter, but it's kind of changed over time. And so you don't need to spend hours rewriting a cover letter is the short story, the short answer to your question.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But they can make a difference
It's
if you're a
I
recruiter or
mean,
hiring manager.
it seems like there's a lot of different approaches that may work. I mean, because it seems like there's a lot of different philosophies behind why they require a cover letter. Like
Mhm.
that's the impression I get. Everybody has a different idea of what it should be. I mean, maybe I'm just not realizing if there's some commonality among it, but you see people that they basically want like a regurgitation of the resume, and then
Mhm.
other people, it seems they want like, no, I want stuff that's not on your resume. I want your ambitions, and I want your personality, and I want like stuff that isn't traditionally part of your resume. Or I have very specific questions. I want you to answer them in a cover letter, like that kind of thing. Uh,
Absolutely. Yes. You want to
yeah, so it's
read the
hard.
instructions fully because maybe there
Mm.
some of those instructions are in there. Generally, my approach with the cover letter is your resume is what hooks the recruiter or the hiring manager, and your cover letter dives deeper. It tells more of a
Yeah,
story about who you are and what you're bringing to the table. So if I required a cover letter for an application and I opened it up and it said, to whom it may concern, I'm applying to this position, contact me for an interview. Thanks, bye. Then I would be like, this person is on the bottom of the consideration pile. But if I open up the cover letter of someone who says, I'm applying to this position, I'm really interested in this position or your organization for these reasons, here's what makes me a great fit for this position or what makes me unique, I'd gladly make myself available for an interview, et cetera, then I would be way more inclined to want to put them higher on the contact pile than the person who has just a really short 2-sentence cover letter that has no meat to it.
yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, like another thing that the cover letter, I guess, is used for. I mean, I've done this, so I'm assuming other people have done it, like years ago. Was if they're asking for specific things in the job posting, here's our requirements and we're looking for someone like this, the cover letter is a way of saying, like pulling that stuff out of your resume. Like, even though you these days you would send a custom version of your resume that draws attention to the things that they specifically asked for, you would do that again in the cover letter, and say like, well, here's why you should consider me. I have this. I live nearby. Like every thing you would say in an argument why they should uh, interview you, basically. You know,
Yeah.
um, you know what
What
I
I
mean?
think, yeah, and I think like if we go back to the original purpose of a cover letter, it probably was back in the day when we were mailing applications in or
Yep,
faxing applications in, you had that cover page where you said,
exactly.
like, attention, HR recruiter, enclosed, please find these documents. I want to apply for this job. You know, please consider my application and I'll make myself available for an interview. And now we're moving way to where I actually think a cover letter is not even the right word for it anymore, because I think people
Yeah,
will review your resume first and then go to your cover letter. So your cover letter isn't even the cover of your application. It's like the second or third step of reviewing your
yeah.
application.
Like my understanding was that it dates from when you would mail in a job application in an envelope.
Mhm.
So The idea was the hiring manager gets a piece of snail mail from you, an envelope. They open the envelope, out falls a resume. It's like they don't know why this was sent to them. They don't know, what's the purpose of it. So you would enclose a letter saying, please, find my resume or my application. I'm applying for this particular job. This is how I know you. And then, you know, here's my information. And if you should need anything else, please let me know. I'm available Tuesdays at 5, or something like that.
Yep.
So it explains the resume. You don't need to do that when you're applying to a website where you fill in the online form. There's no need for that. So as a result, we still have cover letters, but the original purpose, as I understand, is now obsolete. So everybody's got their own sort of version of what they want to see in there. There is no standard thing, you know. So anyway, that's just my understanding. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's
I would agree.
what I've always, yeah.
Because I don't think recruiters look at cover letters first. They're going to pull up your resume
No.
first, and they're going to do a quick scan of it. Does this person meet minimum qualifications? If so, do they have preferred qualifications? If so, let's dive deeper into their application. Look at their other attached materials, which likely would include, which may include a cover letter. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. We've got several messages here from the same person. Says, be wary about copying and pasting your AI produced material.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, HR software will be able to detect it was used. Like personally, I kind of don't care. I mean, if we're going to these lengths, at what point does it become like pointless? You know what I mean? Like you've already got AI scanning your applications. You've got AI producing the resume and stuff like that. Oh no, now although everybody's using it, you can't be seen to be using it because we don't like that for some reason, even though we're fully embracing AI on our end.
Kind of hypocritical.
At what point does this become like self-defeating? Just go and talk to a person. You know what I mean?
And we get back to where we were 20 years ago, where computers aren't even being used. Yeah, it just is.
Yeah,
I agree. It's one of those things where I, as a recruiter or HR person, should not be upset at someone who's using the same types of, tips and tricks I'm using to make my job easier, to make their job and application process easier.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's a little hypocritical. And at the same time, I think one of the things that you really need to be wary about if you're using AI to help you, with your cover letter, with your resume and things like that, is to make sure that the content that has been put out by that platform is not hallucinating or inflating your experiences, because then you'll probably get caught up in that. If you don't.
Yeah, that's a legitimate sort of thing. I mean, once again, okay, I agree wholeheartedly with what you said. The principle seems silly. You're embracing AI, so why would you not want the other party to embrace AI? The only legitimate part of it is that they're trying to filter out spam applications, where people aren't even aware what jobs they're applying to. They're just telling, the computer, figure out what's the best thing for this, send it off, and then you don't even know what you've applied for, So okay, fair enough. But if you're using it as a tool to enhance what you're doing, I think it's fine. I mean, the world is going in that direction. Nobody can stop it. So, you know what I mean? Why are we throwing up these artificial barriers to people? It just seems so silly to me.
And do you want
the bottom line, I just want to say is, the bottom line is that I would say if that's their condition, I would interpret that as a red flag. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Why would you want to work for an organization that's going to judge you for doing the same thing that they're doing to make their process easier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody uses AI all the time, for better or for worse. So, you know what I mean? It's why is that a factor? They force people to struggle along without this tool. It's like saying, if we find that you've used spell checker or grammar checker anywhere in your material you've sent us, you're disqualified. It's what is the purpose of that? Is that just arbitrary? Yeah.
Suddenly I'm no longer allowed to use Microsoft Word or Google Documents because you want me to handwrite everything. I don't know.
Yeah. It's there comes a point where it just okay, if you have that policy, that's fine. You might work for you, but it's not something you should impose on everyone. differentiate yourself to a degree. I think that doesn't really matter when you're trying to get past a computer filter. You know what I'm saying? They're looking for who's the best fit for the requirement.
Especially
That's
if
going to
you're
get you.
only applying online.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you differentiate yourself and network, and you have a human contact who's on the inside who can pull some strings or push you through the process, absolutely. But if
Yeah.
you are just applying to jobs online, just through job boards, and you're not putting in the like personable aspect, you're just, a faceless person behind a screen, it's going to be a lot more difficult because that AI or applicant tracking system is going to be able to truly sort based off of qualifications put into the system, not based off of your uniqueness.
Absolutely. And if anybody's wondering how to differentiate yourself, I mean, it's your particular combination of experiences and education and skills and personality, and work styles and communication styles. That's going to be unique to you. So if you're wondering, like, oh, what's different, what's unique about me? It's that combination. I can guarantee you is going to be pretty much unique. You know what I'm saying? Other people might have the same education as you. Other people might have the same experience, but what they probably don't have is that combined with the same personality and work style. That is pretty unique already. It's pretty tough to find people that are identical, all those things together. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, absolutely.
Someone says, thank you. You're welcome, eFantasia. Thank you for your reassurances. That's what I'm here for. We reassure you, whatever you're doing, you have my assurances that you're doing the right thing. That's how that goes. Okay, Detroit become mutant. Awesome. That's a colorful. It's good to have a personality. It says, when applying to a job, is it best to send your resume as a docx or a PDF? That's a very specific question. What would you say? I would say PDF.
I would agree. And I think that unless they say they only accept it as a docx or doc, whatever it might be, then you have to upload it that way as well. But I would always default to PDF, and primarily because you might have some formatting things in your resume that like show some of the squiggle lines, whether it's like, the green or the red squiggle line. Then sometimes information can get jumbled if they're using a different program. So I always recommend doing a PDF because it kind of like locks in and like makes your document a little bit more concrete. So I would do that as a default.
It's funny because 20 years ago, I would have given that answer to this exact question. DocX, PDF, you had them back then. That was the big thing. DocX, it's a lot more versatile. You can go in and you can change the font, you can move things around. It doesn't just like hard code it the way the PDF does. But when it goes into a computer filter like a ATS, ATS system, I think that's a tautology, applicant tracking system or applicant tracking software system, then the docx you can get bad results because it can garble. If it's got text boxes and things in there that can get in the way. I would recommend a PDF, and I'd recommend keeping it simple. Your resume should be a very simple, straightforward format. No weird graphics, no weird bar charts and things, no text boxes. Yeah, keep it simple, and then computers can read it properly and there's no issues.
Yep. And this person's next comment, says that their site said it's best to use a docx, but you can send in a PDF. I would do a docx then, because they're saying that it's best to use that. It might have to do with the software on the reader's end.
I would send in both if you can.
Yeah, might as well. Yeah. And then you have like this.
Sorry, Abby, go ahead. You were saying something about the readers. I was interested in that.
No, so the reader, like the person who's reviewing your document, if they're on Adobe PDF, having Adobe is expensive. So some organizations may not pay for their people to have Adobe. And so their reader that they have, the free version, might not open up your document, your PDF document, in a way that's as conducive to their operating system. So it may be that they all have Microsoft Word and they would prefer you to submit your document as a docx. There we go.
Send it as a doc. You know,
Yeah.
the version before
98.
docx from the 90s. Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
So yeah, submit both. Might as well. But if they say it's best to use a docx, then that's what I would upload for sure.
Just send it as like a Lotus 123 file, see
Yeah.
if they can read it. That's how
Yeah.
you know you're dealing with a good company, if they can like actually read what you wrote in that format. That's the test. Okay, ATS is software that streamlines the hiring process by acting as a central hub for posting jobs, collecting resumes. Absolutely, yep, that's correct.
And I
Um,
think if we go back to applicant tracking systems, we've got about 5 minutes left. So we just want to make sure we get through all these questions.
Sure.
But if we go back to applicant tracking systems, they have the potential to be really intelligent, and they also are mostly not. So
mind-numbingly stupid. Yeah, exactly.
most applicant tracking systems are really just a storage location for all the applicant documents that are submitted for a specific job. But some applicant tracking systems are robust enough to analyze documents that get submitted to identify which candidates might be better fits for a job or not. So you want to make sure that your applicant tracking system, well, from a candidate perspective, you want to make sure that your documents are plain enough that they can be read and understood by the non-intelligent applicant tracking systems, and also can be reviewed by the more intelligent ones. I'm talking about them like they're people. That's the direction AI is taking us. But
Abby, you've got the lingo down. The non-intelligent. Yeah, I have to.
yeah.
I have to resist
Stupid
the temptation to say
not
dumb.
stupid.
Yeah, that's right. We got to keep the language on point here. Fantasia? What careers might I pivot into from education with a Bachelor of English degree in the wake of AI? That's an interesting question. That's actually a really cool kind of question to fully explore. Now, if we had more time, I would plug into. You know what? Let's just do this very quickly, if we can.
We can copy that word for word and put it into ChatGPT or Grok and ask the AI platform what it would recommend, which is kind of funny, isn't it? Like, it's like ironic. I'm going to ask the platform that might kick me out of my field. As Bill is doing this, I just want to say AI, as he's doing this, AI is average. So there's always going to be a need for people who can innovate further than what the average is to get higher quality content and information. So while you might have, a Bachelor of English, and you might think that that's going to become obsolete, it actually probably isn't. People will be able to create very average content with AI, but they're not going to be able to create super meaningful, like human connection type content that resonates with people like a human can, because the human experience is different from what a computer might be able to experience. So
first of all, I want to say, sorry to cut you off. I want to say, for this question, this is really cool because with skills in English, in terms of what your value is, what you can do, there are a ton of possibilities. You could go into the PR department of a company. You could create a lot of value there. You could go to marketing. You could have a particular talent for phrasing things very persuasively, very, very, optimally, in a very, very sensitively, you know what I mean? Like, and sort of walking all these very, like the tightrope of a lot of communication issues that you have in a lot of organizations. There's a lot of political things going on. There's a lot of signaling things going on. Someone that has real command over the language and is like tuned into how words can be taken and, how to express something, from different perspectives. There's incredible value there. So depending on how you can use these skills. Now, if you are networking and you impress upon, hiring managers or executive managers, like, that you can do this kind of thing and they can see it by interacting with you, there might be a hell of a lot of opportunities, for that. Would it be easy to go through a recruiter with this kind of thing? Probably not. They have very hard requirements, but if you do the networking thing, then there's a lot of flexibility there. So that's interesting. Now I want to do this in real time. I just see if I can do this. Oh, here, it's already on the screen. So here we go. So the question was, so what careers might I pivot into from education with a Bachelor of English degree in the wake of AI? Let's just see what ChatGPT says. Here we go. My really slow computer. There we go. Okay. Bachelor of English background education is not obsolete. It is obsolete if you compete on pure content production, right? So AI is very good at drafting, text, summarizing. AI is bad at judgment, context, human motivation, persuasion, translating ideas across domains, handling ambiguity and people. Communication is one of the most important things that happens in business. Everything is based on communication. Not only do you communicate internally with an organization to make it work, but you have to communicate outside or else business doesn't occur. You have to at least communicate to customers in order to sell something and be in business. You have to communicate to all kinds of other, like partners, vendors, regulators, like there's it's an interconnected mesh kind of relationship when you're in business, and communication is key to all of those. You could be someone that specializes in communicating with suppliers and putting out fires, and people that have, you've burned your bridges with a company. You're the one that they send as an ambassador to try and get them to open a dialogue again and stuff. I mean, there's so many applications for this. If you can illustrate some of these problems that you solve and get in front of some hiring managers, that deal with this stuff, and they see the problems caused by this stuff, they'll probably offer you something on the spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot you can do with it.
Well, and AI is really great at things that are automated, things that don't require a lot of human input. But like those things that got generated at the top of this list, those are all things that require human input, judgment, conflict resolution, context, human interaction and motivation. There we go. Persuasion, translating ideas, being able to connect to people at different levels of understanding in a meaningful way. So AI can certainly be used to streamline your job and the industry that you're in, but the chances of it completely eliminating it are low. And I think that's true for almost every industry, except for things that require a lot of process that can be automated quickly.
Yeah, there's a lot of content being generated out there, a lot of AI generated content. You know what people never get tired of? Good content. And there's not a lot of that. There's a lot of generic okay content. There's still not a lot of good content. And that's why we'll always need people in these processes in some way, shape, or form. So you don't have to worry about AI being here. It hasn't made what you can do obsolete, that's for sure.
Yep.
My resume has no images or graphs. Everything is in words. Right on. That's what you want. Thank you for interacting and answering our questions and comments. You're absolutely welcome. That's what we're here for. I'm afraid I won't ever be able to get hired again. Well, that's clearly not true. It depends on what you do. You certainly have the potential to do it there. Detroit Become Mutant, even with that name. Okay, you're going to be fine. And if you have specific questions, come back. Abby's got some stuff. I'm live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so we can help you out. I have a bachelor degree in science, in math. I can't find a job. Yeah, well, that's because there's a difference between having value and being qualified to do something and being able to get a job. They're two separate things. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that someone's going to instantly offer you a job. Getting a job is the sales process. You have to sell yourself. You have to communicate your value and get in front of the right people. That's a totally different thing than being qualified in science or math or whatever else you got, right?
Which
so you got half of it.
The reality of the situation. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where people like us come in. It's, that's why people are confused and they're having trouble with this, because in school, maybe they didn't teach you that, like, more than just being qualified, you then need to be able to go out and sell yourself. And that's a whole separate thing. So once you learn that, you're going to be fine. And get on AI as a starting point, tell it your problem, and it will point you in the right direction. And if you got more questions, come back. Do you guys stream often? Well, we do this every 2 weeks. like I stream more often on my channel, but Abby and I get together every 2 weeks to do this. So come back 2 weeks from now, or from an hour and a half ago, and we'll be back.
And that's actually kind of a great segue to start kind of wrapping up our stream, is that
Yeah.
we used to stream every Monday. Today is Monday, every Monday. And we're now not every Monday, every other Monday. And we're going to move to Wednesdays. So we've got those streams kind of set up on our various channels. So if you want to join in for our next Career Expert Roundtable, we will be going live on February 11th, I believe. We can pull up my calendar just to quadruple check. Yeah, Wednesday, February. Let's go to my next one. Yep, Wednesday, February
3
11th.
days before Valentine's Day. So if you've got that special someone, get them to join you on our stream. They might learn something.
Yep. And we go for about an hour and a half every other week with our Career Expert Roundtable. And Bill streams frequently. What is it? 5 to 6 times a week. Is that accurate?
Yeah, like I do two, like, because if I'm doing one live stream, I might as well divide it in half and do two. So I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Yeah, but on different topics. So mainly job search, but also business and then entrepreneurial type stuff.
Yep.
I think we have got one or two final questions very quickly. Sense36 says, vying for a computer science degree and AI is proposed to be a complementary tool for the bulk of man-made work. Yeah, that's the party line right now. What they probably are not teaching you is about AI slop, which, is becoming a thing. Everybody's building AI into everything that they do, whether or not it makes sense or adds any value. And that's kind of where we are now. So it's gonna morph. It's definitely a useful thing, but it's not just going to be this thing that everybody says it's going to just take over everywhere all the time. At least that's the impression I'm getting. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Abby.
Yeah, well, and I think the part that I like the most about this comment is that it's a complementary tool for the bulk of our work. So it's something that can help you do all of those things that were initially on your screen earlier, which was like summarize, just kind of streamline things that we've already put effort into. Coming up with completely unique, innovative ideas and content is not going to be a strength of AI anytime soon, if ever.
Yes, there's, and that's a huge topic too. We could get into some other time, but we have to sign off in a moment. Thanks to everybody who participated in the chat. We got so many comments. I can't even go through this. If you just commented right now at the end, thanks for being here. Hopefully you got something out of this. Check out Abby's channel. She offers personal coaching services. So if you want somebody in your court that's working for you, that's on your team, that's helping you succeed, as opposed to the recruiters you're dealing with, they're working for the employer. They don't really care about you per se. They're not trying to give you feedback and all this. Abby can work with you to help you succeed. So check out her stuff. I don't know if you want to just elaborate on that.
Yeah. So if you're looking for specific support on interviews, whether it's interview preparation, kind of analyzing past interviews, what went well, what could have gone better, mock interviews, general career and strategy, or career and job search strategy and insights, then definitely consider scheduling a session with me. Many people will work with me for a single session and feel like they have the tools, resources, and confidence to go at it on their own, knowing that they can come back and kind of bounce some ideas off of me in the future. But it doesn't require, a 3-month investment or anything like that to get some real results out of a session with me. So if you're looking for that quick, practical strategy and support, let me know. I've got all my contact information in the description box from my stream. And then if you're watching from my stream and you want to check out Bill's content, I've got his handle in my description box. So you can quickly access his YouTube channel and all the resources that he has. So he's got, some instant self-paced courses that are great for, a variety of needs, specifically that introverts, get hired now course that you've got available. So we've got a lot of resources between the two of us.
Yeah, I've got courses. I don't do personal coaching like Abby does. I've got some courses. So probably the one that everybody here might be interested in is called Get Hired, my Get Hired course. So it teaches you how to get hired on the posted job market and in the hidden job market. So all the networking stuff, that kind of thing, tailored to introverts. So check that out. If you're watching us on my channel, like Abby says, there's a link in the description box to that. And I made videos about my courses, so it explains how it works and what you get. So it's as transparent as possible. We will be back in 2 weeks. I will be back on Wednesday. We wish everybody best of luck in your endeavors. You guys are awesome. If you have questions, come back, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye, everyone.